We are continuing with the digestive system. Last session we have seen the teeth and what are its function and the different types of teeth. And can you remember what is the dental formula of an adult human being? It is 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is the adult man's dental formula. Now we can see the structure of a typical tooth. Okay, so the general structure of all the types of teeth is same. So maybe it is incisors, canines, premolars or molars. You can say that the basic structure is same in all the cases. So each tooth has two parts. One is called as the crown and the other is called as the root. So two main parts for the root, for the tooth. One is called as what? Crown, and the next one is called as what? Root. So what is crown? The visible part or the part which you can see outside, the white part which you are seeing outside. The gum is called as what? Yes, that is crown. Here in this structure, you can see this white part. This white part only is called as a crown, and this structure is what is shown in the yellow colored part. That is nothing but what? A root structure. Okay. So this is crown, the whitish part, and the other part is called as a root. And the root consists of a single process in the case of incisors and canines. So here you can see a structure of the teeth. Here two processes you can see here clearly. Two processes, whereas in the case of incisors and canine, a simple one process only you can see in the root. Whereas in the case of premolars and molars, you can see two processes or fans, that is otherwise called as fans. Two processes you can see. Whereas in the upper molars, that is the molars, that is the last teeth which is present in the upper jaw, you can see three fans. On the other day when you are learning the structure, you have seen that this is the structure of the molar, and here you have seen like this three processes you have seen, isn't it? Are you remembering this one? So three processes you have seen that you can see only in the upper molars only. So this is the main structure, and the neck again a slight region here, somewhat here you can see a neck region, and the neck is a slight constriction between the root and the crown. So between the root and the crown there is a slight constriction, and that is called as what? Neck. Now we can go to the structure of the tooth, and first part is called as enamel, and it is the hardest material in the human body. So this outer part, this part is called as what? Enamel. What you can see outside of your teeth, that part is called as what? Enamel. Enamel, which is the hardest part of the human body. Second one is the dentine. So this part, see, this is the bulk part. This also is just inside the enamel. This is the bulk part, and this is called as what? Dentine, and it is harder than bone. This dentine is harder than bone, but even it is not as hard as enamel. That means enamel is the hardest part in the human body. Okay, and again inside that there is a pulp cavity. This is the pulp cavity. You can say this is what is called a pulp cavity, which is fixing to the root of this tooth. Then cement is another bone-like structure covering and fixing the root in position. Cement. Here you can see the cement. This region you can see the cement. And this cement, what is its function? It is also hard, just like a bone-like part, and it is covering and fixing the root in position. And the pulp, so here you can see the pulp, okay, and it is very soft in nature and it is contained in the canal called as pulp cavity. And what are the things present in this one? Yes, it contains blood capillaries, then lymph vessel and nerve fibers. So these things are present in the pulp. What are the things? Blood capillaries are present. Along with that, lymph vessel is also present. Then nerve fibers also present in the pulp. Okay. Then this is the main structure of the tooth. And now in the mouth cavity you have studied about the lips and its function, tongue and its function. Now the tooth and its function you have learned. Now about the salivary glands. Our mouth is always wet due to the presence of what? Due to the presence of saliva. This saliva is secreted by certain glands which is present in the mouth. So what are these glands? These glands, 3 glands are there which we are calling it as salivary glands. So salivary glands are those glands which secrete saliva in the mouth. So which are these 3 glands? One is called as parotid gland, then second one is submandibular gland and third one is sublingual gland. So these are the 3 salivary glands present in the mouth. So which are the? This parotid, submandibular and sublingual. So that's from all these 3 words, salivary glands, it enters into the mouth, and you can say that always this very small quantity of saliva will be secreting into the mouth, which keep your mouth always wet. Okay. Otherwise you can see that mouth will be very dry. So these 3 glands also in smaller quantity always it is secreting this saliva through duct. So these are glands with the duct, that is exocrine gland. We will study afterwards about the 2 types of gland, that is one is exocrine and another one is endocrine gland. So these glands are with the duct and they secrete their secretion, that is saliva, into the mouth, which keeps the mouth wet always. So again when we are eating food, so ordinary case a little saliva only will be secreting, whereas when we are eating food, what happens? A large quantity of saliva will flow into the mouth and it mix with the food items what is in the mouth. So you can see that even sometimes a slight smell or just a thought of a tasty food, you can see that your mouth will be salivated, especially when you see tamarind. If somebody is eating tamarind itself, you can see that your mouth start to salivate, isn't it children? So you can see that is called as watering the mouth. Okay. So normally 1000 to 1500 milliliter of saliva is produced every day in our mouth. And what is the taste of this one? It is slightly acidic, means its pH value will be below 7. 7 means pH value is 7 means it is neutral, above 7 means it is alkaline, and below 7 means what? It is acidic. So here it is, what is the pH value here of the saliva is about 6.8, that is very slightly acidic in nature. Okay. And what are the things present in the saliva? Yes, the main thing is 99% of some salt and water, salts and mucus and another enzyme. So these are the things present in the saliva. So water, the main component is water, that is about 99% of water is present. then some salt is present, then mucus, and an enzyme also is present. So what is this enzyme which is present in the saliva? That is called as salivary amylase, otherwise called as taurine. So okay, P is silent there, taurine. Okay, so salivary amylase or taurine, this is the enzyme which is present in the saliva. So we can see what are the functions of this saliva. First thing, it moistens and lubricates the mouth cavity, otherwise called as moral cavity. What is meant by moral cavity? Nothing but the mouth cavity. So always the mouth will be moistened by the saliva, and so that you can see that the surface of the tongue also has the saliva. So it helps in facilitating what? Speaking as well as swallowing. So as the tongue also is having this saliva on its surface, it helps in speaking as well as in swallowing the food. So that is the first function of the saliva. Now, what is the second function? It lubricates the food, so that you can say that when you are chewing the food, that little water content is needed. So the saliva will be secreted from the mouth, and so that it loosens the foods. That process is called as lubricating the food, so that it helps in swallowing the food. What is the third function? It acts as a solvent, dissolving some of the food particles and stimulate the taste buds. So it acts as a solvent. Again, it stimulates the taste buds. Where these taste buds are located? Yes, in different regions in the tongue. Which are the four basic taste? Can you tell me? Yes, salt, sour, sweet and bitter. These are the four basic tastes. So you can say that what it will do, it helps in the stimulate the taste buds which is present throughout the tongue. Okay. Then fourth function you can say, it helps the food particles together to form a bolus, a round mass like structure. Okay. The tongue as well as this saliva together make the food into a bolus, small ball like structure, so that it will be easy for us to swallow. Okay, that is the fourth function. And fifth function is that it digests starch. So we can say that the process of digestion starts in the mouth itself. So the process of digestion starts in the mouth. So what is the thing that saliva digests? Yes, saliva digests starch with the help of an enzyme called as salivary amylase or taurine. I already told you, in saliva water is present, salt is present, then mucus, and again one enzyme is also present. That enzyme is nothing but salivary amylase or taurine. What is the function of this enzyme which is present in the saliva? Yes, the taurine or salivary amylase convert this starch what is present in the food into maltose. Maltose, it is a disaccharide. Two sugar units is present. Okay, so it's a disaccharide, and so you can say that starch is converting into maltose in the mouth itself. So that's why sometimes you can say that you are chewing the boiled rice for more time in the mouth. You can say afterwards you will feel what? A bit sweet taste you will be getting. This sweet taste is due to the presence of what? Maltose, which is a disaccharide. There you can say that the starch present in the rice is changing into maltose, by the action of the enzyme tannin. Thus we can say that digestion starts in the mouth itself. Okay, what is the sixth function of this saliva? Yes, you can say that the food particles, that it cleans the mouth and tends to destroy the germs. So it itself, what it will do, it cleans the mouth and again it destroys certain germs or bacteria which cause this tooth decay. And seventh function of the saliva, it prevents the dryness in the mouth. Otherwise, I told you in the beginning itself that mouth will be very dry if saliva is not present. So it prevents the dryness in the mouth, so that you can say that it gives a feeling of thirst, and so thus we will drink water and thus we can keep a balance of water in the body. So these are the 7 functions of the saliva. Next, let us see in the digestive. We are going back to the digestive system. Now you have seen what are the things, what is in the digestive system. Starts with the mouth. There itself, what is the function of lips you have seen, function of tongue, function of teeth, function of saliva also you have seen. Now, how when food is swallowing in the form of small ball-like structure, this bolus, how it is passed through the food pipe, otherwise called as esophagus. Esophagus or food pipe, it is going, by what type of movement it is going. So the movement, a wave-like movement, that is nothing but peristalsis. So now we are going to see the process swallowing and peristalsis. In swallowing, there are several simultaneous actions. So one after other, you can say that some action will be going on. The tongue presses upward. So the tongue, it is pressing upward and back against the roof of the roof, means the upper part of the mouth, and so that the chewed food will be forming into a bolus and then pushing it into the gut. Gut is nothing but what? This region is called as gut. So this is the digestive system. So from the mouth, the food is passing. This is called as food pipe, otherwise called as esophagus. So food in the form of small bolus, it is entering, the tongue is pushing this food into this small tube which is called as esophagus. So here the back part of the mouth cavity is closed. So when it reaches, you can see that a small region which is called as epiglottis is present. That opening is common to our nasal cavity and the food going pipe. A common opening is present. So somewhat in this region. So here you can see that somewhat in this region a small flap or lid-like structure is present, and that is called as what? Epiglottis. So usually what happens when we are eating the food, this flap called epiglottis or glottis, it will come and cover what? Yes, that region, so that it won't allow the entry of food into the air going pipe. So the food will be going into where? Only directly to the esophagus. That's why it is advised when you are eating the food, you are not allowed to talk. While talking or laughing, what will happen at the same time you are eating the food, the flap or the epiglottis, sometimes it may not close. So what will happen? Food particle may enter into the air going pipe, okay, trachea. So it will cause continuous cough, okay. So better while eating you don't talk. After swallowing you can eat, but while swallowing and talking means this thing will be, so the flap called glottis or epiglottis, that will be opening. so the food particles may enter into the air-going pipe. So avoid that one. So now food is reached into the esophagus. Okay, the food reached into the structure called as esophagus or food pipe. So gut. Anything you can say that. See, this is the mouth region, and this is what is called as esophagus or food pipe. Okay, so in the food pipe or esophagus, what type of movement takes place for the food to go inside the stomach? So yes, that is called as what? Peristalsis. That movement, that is the wave-like constructions caused by the circular muscles of the food pipe or the gut pushing the food down. So you can see that the circular muscles like this, it is present here. Circular muscles are present here, and just keep on drawing. See, this is the esophagus, and the bolus or the food, it is coming like this. Okay, what will happen? First, this region will constrict. So that when it constricts, the food will be moving to this region. Okay, then after reaching this region, again this region will constrict, and this bolus will enter into the next region. So by the automatic contraction and relaxation of this food pipe or esophagus, cause the food to move down, and this wave-like constriction is called as peristalsis. The movement of the esophagus to push the bolus down is called as what? Peristalsis. So you can say that now the next part is what? Yes, that is nothing but stomach. So food from esophagus reaches the large muscular region. So here you can see a muscular bag, that is called as what? Stomach. From the esophagus, food now reaches into the stomach. It is an elastic bag that is located below the diaphragm. What is diaphragm? Yes, diaphragm is the muscular membrane that is separating the thoracic and abdominal cavity. Okay, that is separating the thoracic and abdominal cavity. Okay, so here you can say that it will next reach to a muscular bag-like structure. This is nothing but what? Stomach. So in the stomach, usually 3 to 4 hours food will be remaining back. And what's the process? Continuous churning process will be going on in the stomach. So you can say that there is a juice produced by the wall of this stomach, that is called as gastric juice. So stomach produce a juice called as what? Gastric juice, which helps in the digestion. Okay. So muscular bag-like structure, and the food will be remaining 2 to 3 hours in this muscular structure. Okay. And the opening of the stomach into the intestine here in this region. Okay. This from here you can see that small intestine will start. Okay. So this opening, that is from stomach to what? To the intestine, that region is called as pylorus. So the opening of the stomach to the small intestine, that is called as what? Pylorus. So what is its function? It won't allow this food when after completely digesting. Here only it allows the food to go into this small intestine. So I told you 3 to 4 hours it will be remaining, food will be remaining back in the stomach, and the churning process or grinding process of the food will be taking place. Okay. So after this only the food will pass into the next region, which is called as pylorus. The opening of the stomach to the small intestine is called as pylorus. So again you can see that this here another opening called as cardiac sphincter here in this region, which is called as cardiac sphincter. So what is its function? It prevents the flow of food back to where? Back to the esophagus. So during vomiting, actually what happens that what time you will be vomiting when your stomach is overloaded, or you can see that stomach if it upset, you can see that it what will happen, we will vomit. At that time what happens? Actually how you can see through your mouth what food you have eaten, it is coming out. How this process takes, a reverse process takes down, and here this is by the contraction of this cardiac sphincter which is present here, this will open. Okay, this valve or muscle will be opening, and food from here it will be going back to the esophagus, and so that to the mouth we are vomiting out. Clear to you? So the gastric, I told you already what is the juice secreted by the wall of the stomach, that is gastric juice. Now we can see what is the function of this gastric juice. So it is secreted by the inner lining of the stomach, and it is colorless liquid. This gastric juice, it is a colorless liquid, and it is highly acidic in nature. So it contains certain acid, especially hydrochloric acid. So it is acidic in nature, and it contains water, salts, and the main acid is hydrochloric acid. So what are the components of this gastric juice? Yes, water, salt, and hydrochloric acid. So water, salt, and HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. So what's its function? The acid serves two functions. Which acid is present? Yes, it is hydrochloric acid. Due to the presence of hydrochloric acid only, gastric juice is acidic in nature, so that its pH value is below 7. So you can see that two function is there for this hydrochloric acid. One is that it kills the germs which may enter along with the food. So along with our food, if any germs entered into our stomach, the HCl or hydrochloric acid will kill that germs. That is the first function. Second function is that it activates pepsin to act on protein. So it produces an enzyme called as pepsin, and this pepsin will convert protein into peptides. So pepsin converts protein into peptides. So two function of hydrochloric acid, one to kill the germs present in the food, and second function it acts on the pepsin and convert protein and then converting it into peptides. Actually first this pepsin, it will not be in that form, that is in an inactive form pepsinogen is present. Okay, pepsinogen which is an inactive form it is present, and on combining with the HCl or hydrochloric acid, that will be changing into pepsin which is an active form. Again you can see that this pepsin when combining with what? The enzyme, it is converting into peptides. So here you can see that pepsin act on the protein and converting into peptides. Okay. So the food stay in the stomach for about 3 to 4 hours, and when it attains a pulp-like form, so fine grinding process will be taking place. When it attains the pulp-like form, you can see that that time that structure is called as chyme. So here the food, it is completely, the churning process is over, and the food we are calling it as chyme. So then what will happen? It has to move to the small intestine. So what's the structure present between the small intestine and stomach? Yes, that opening is called as pylorus. Okay. So when it comes in the form of a chyme, that is finely churned food, the pylorus will be opening, and little by little you can say that the food will be passing into the, all on a sudden don't think that this full food items what is present in the stomach will be passing into the small intestine. It is not possible. Little by little you can say that this food will be entering into where? Yes, into the small intestine through the opening called as pylorus. So in the, the small intestine, it is very long structure. Okay, so it is divided into 3 parts. So small intestine, mainly it has 3 parts. One is called as duodenum. First part is called as duodenum. Second part is called as jejunum, and third part is called as ileum. These are the 3 parts of the small intestine. So the first part is duodenum, next part is jejunum, and the third part is ileum. So now each part let us see. Duodenum is the short upper part next to the stomach. So here you can see this pink colored part is the coiled structure. What it is shown is what? See, from here it is entering. So here this structure we can say that what? From the stomach, this first region, this is nothing but what? Duodenum. First part is called as duodenum, and it is 12 fingers width. That's all. Okay. And the common bile duct opens to this part, and here clearly you can see the bile duct open. See the bile green colored structure shown here. This is the bile duct. It is produced by, this structure is called as what? Yes, liver. See the brown colored structure is called as what? Liver. And from there again you can see a greenish colored structure. Okay. This is liver produce what? Bile that enter into which region? Yes, that is the first region, that is nothing but duodenum. Clearly you can see. And the common this bile duct opens into the duodenum. Next, second part is called as jejunum. Second part is nothing but what? Jejunum. And this is a very short region, about 2 meters in length. So second region is short region. It is only 2 meters in length. Okay. So it will be highly coiled like this. This is what we are showing, the structure. Okay, small intestine. So this region is called as duodenum. And the next region, that is called as what? Jejunum. It is a short region and only 2 meters in length. Okay. And usually that will be empty. That jejunum region, food will not be remaining there. That is an empty region. And the third region is called as ileum. It is nearly 4 meters long. Okay. So that is 4 meters long, and that is called as ileum, means twist or roll, and that means it is little bit longer part, it is twisted into a small area. Okay. The inner lining of the ileum is made into a great number of tiny finger-like projection, that is called as villi. So in the small intestine, if I am drawing here, suppose the small intestine is like this, and I am drawing the ilium region, that is the third region, and very small finger-like projection it is present throughout this 4 meters length also. Like this, both sides small finger-like projections, and this finger-like projection is called as villi. So, villi. So, this finger-like projection increase the area, and so that it enables a larger absorption also of the food. So, the continuous folding, it is nothing but villi.